All right, welcome back. We are COMP1115, that's Game Programming 1 in the fall 2025 semester at Georgian. And it's week 3, part 1 of our broadcast and recording together. And this week, we're going to talk about conditionals. So that's like if, else, and switch statements. Some people have asked before, like, hey, couldn't I change the outcome of my program flow? And up until now, we haven't really talked about it, but this is the first day. I really kind of figure like these first 4 weeks actually are super fundamental. Like once you're able to do like input and output variables, conditionals, and as well as loops, you pretty much have the building blocks for most of the things that we're going to be doing probably for your entire career, right? Like they're like the basic things that you do when you program. Okay, like super basic. So last week what we did was we talked about variables and data types. It says ICE2 due tonight. That was what it was last week. And we did a little bit of documentation, and we talked about Git workflow, add, commit, and push. I was talking to Christine yesterday, like through text, and she said that you guys are also talking about that in her class, if I'm not wrong, right? So, which is a good thing. And it's important when you kind of put together your project with your teams that you use proper Git. So hopefully there's like somebody on your team who is, the lead software engineer or whatever to allow you guys to do that together, right? So that's what's happening. Git is important. It's not just important here in this class, but it's important for you guys as you're developing the code for your project. But today we're talking about conditionals, logical and relational operators, variable scope. We'll talk about what that is. I've also included the random class, so you can make some random numbers happen, as well as more commit discipline as we continue. Okay, so that's kind of what we're doing this week. Questions around last week? I did mark everybody, so whoever had their stuff fully submitted, that was marked. And just like I said a moment ago, if you are one of these people who have not been marked because you didn't submit your stuff properly, I'm going to get to that in the next cycle, which should be Sunday, Monday timeframe. By the way, going forward, after I've talked to you guys and I've told you this is the last week that I'll be accepting any resubmissions. So if you didn't submit properly this week, or last week, that's fine. But after this week, like this week here, ICE3, if you don't submit properly, 0. No resubmissions, all right? So, and it's not because I want to be mean, it's because we got to move on. I can't, it slows me down. I've got, all of you, plus all the other sections as well, plus 2 other ones. It's a lot, and I want to make sure that I'm on top of things. And there's no way I can keep going back and following up with the stuff that you've missed, right? So it's your responsibility. Please make sure you submit everything properly. And typically, like I said, there's no extensions. So tonight, this one is due tonight at midnight. It's not due tomorrow. It's not due anything else. It's tonight, unless, again, some weird thing happens. We have some weird technical issue. Hopefully we'll not. That's when it's due. At the beginning of this lecture, anyway. Let's see what happens by the end. One other thing is that I know this other strike is going on, and some professors have elected to teach remotely. I'm not going to do that, so my plan is to be here in person all the time. However, extraneous circumstances may change that. If I'm told that I should go up online, I will. But until I'm told that, then the answer is I'm going to be here. I'll even be here next week during your remote weeks if you learn better. Okay, so if you learn better this way, you can certainly come in. If you're not here, I still will run Zoom remotely from here, so you can still learn from your house or wherever you are. That's fine. I just find it's just better to be in person. You can help each other, that kind of stuff. I also noticed today that there are people missing because, compared to like last week, we don't have a full house, compared to last time. Yeah, and this could be for a lot of reasons. 8 a.m. is a tough class, right, to get to. And also it's because, we're getting into semester now, and people are like, they're going to try and make it happen without coming in. They think that I'm going to make videos. I'm not making videos, right? So if they're not here, they're not here. It's worth 6% of their final grade. It is what it is. All right, let's move on. So, decision making. Imagine if you have all these grades that you got to assign students, right? Different grades for different levels, and you want to associate their number grade with the letter grade, right? How do you do that if you have hundreds of students, and as an example, and their grades vary? You can't do that with the constructs we have so far. You need something else, right? So, I mean, we could do stuff, like one at a time, and we could certainly, take input. But the problem is up until now, we have no way of comparing what the input is with what we want, right? When we start thinking about the if statement, and I want you to think about what we're doing, we're actually doing something called branching, okay? So what that means is I have logic, where I follow logic, A, B, C, down a line of thinking, and then I get to a point where there's a branch, right? I can say it's either true or false. Think about this from a game perspective. I have line of sight with you, or I don't, right? I have ammo, or I don't. I have health, or I don't, right? And depending on if those things happen, I can create something called a decision tree. One day when we get together, you'll see me again, probably in semester 3 or 4. And then when we do, we'll talk about AI. We will start doing machine AI and all that kind of stuff. And when we get there, we'll talk about making decisions, for your AI agent. When we get to that point, we're going to talk about decision trees, and we'll also talk about other things. But decision trees really are like a true or false, Either I can see you or I can't. If I have good health or I don't. And then you can make decisions from there. Is that a question?
Oh, no.
Okay. So that's the kind of stuff that we're going to get into. And so we can't really get there without this fundamental building block of an if statement, right? When I was young, when I first learned about if statements, I was like, wow, if I have if statements, I can create anything I want. I can make any logic that I feel like, right? Between that and what we're going to learn next week, I felt empowered to create all kinds of stuff. And I hopefully feel the same way after the next week comes. So what we do is we write if statements. They kind of look like this. If you have some kind of condition like this, and then inside curly braces, right, you have what you want the computer to do. If this is true. If this is true, then you do this. That's what happens, okay, with it. And I can show you code like this all the time, but you know me, I think it's better that we do it in Visual Studio. So let's, crank up Visual Studio, right? Which is what we want to do. Let's do some hands-on, as we always do, right? And I want to make a brand new project again. I know people are like, wait, brand new project again? Yes, a brand new project again. And I want to do this over and over again so you guys get the commit discipline that you need. Making the project, all that stuff. I'm making a new console app like we did last time. I'm going to click next. These are all things you've done before, nothing new. I'm going to type in ICE3. And then we're going to click on next. And we're going to click, definitely not, don't use these, and click create. And you should get to this point where we have what we had last time and the time before that, which is this structure. Okay? We have a hello world. We had a couple things last week that we also talked about. And remember, I have some structure from last week that I want to show you. So if we go to GitHub, Georgian, remember I share these things with you as well. And if I looked at ICE2, right, just for a second, and if I looked at that one file, again, I'm looking at my ICE2, right? We had a couple things last week that I can copy in. I'm going to copy these lines here from ICE2. So I'm going to grab these two things, character sheet and character name, and maybe all this stuff too. Why not? Since, we don't want to do that again, right? So copy all that. Again, I'm copying from my own project, but you can copy from yours or mine if you want to go in there and start this from now, because that's what we're doing right now. And then all I'm doing is I'm just going to do one of these, like so. So where did I get this from? I got it from my GitHub. So if you go to my GitHub /Georgian College, that's where you go. Try that out. So I went here. I went GitHub /Georgian College / COMP1115, F2025, ICE2. That's where I went to. And I kind of drilled into ICE2. That's what I did. That's what you can do with Git, libraries like this. Go in here. And then when I'm in here, I can go to program.cs. And when I click onto it, I see all the code from last week. So this is helpful because, I mean, I can certainly just, kind of copy paste. So I copied most of it, and I'm going to even copy up to here where I prompt the character for their name. Okay, up to this point. There we go. So I can do that. And then we're kind of where we were last week, right? Except when we output the character sheet, which we'll do as well. All right, so that's kind of where we are. So you guys should be here with me. Again, all I did was copy paste from my GitHub project. For those people who don't know what that is, I'm going to put that at the top. So you can say something like copied from, or here we go, right? So, and I'll just take my GitHub repository. When I ask you guys for the repository, it's this one right here. So if I go back to code, people have asked, I don't know what link to give you, Tom. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's this one right here at the top, right? So if I go to this repository right here, that's the one, that's the link. So I'm going to copy that in here so you can see it. That's the link that I normally would have. This link is the way that you would copy it into Blackboard, and this is where it comes from. Okay, so if you haven't been able to copy some stuff, I didn't copy all of it, just up to where I get input from character name, because the rest we're going to change. All right, nice and easy. No, I do. Yeah, I got all this, but I went all the way down to here, up to console read line for enter character name, right?
No, there are too many complications. I have too many complications with the code that I just tried to copy, so I'm not going to copy it.
It's up to you. If you want to copy it or type it out or do whatever you want to do. So now that we're here, right, and we've got this part. I don't need all of it, just this part right here, right? I should run it and make sure that it works, right? Because I'm copying code from my previous repository, and I want to copy it, and I want to run it, and let's see what happens. So I get kind of a gray screen, and then I can enter my name, and then that's it. That's all I can do. There's no output. I just get input, right? Because that's all I've done. I haven't outputted anything. I just input right now, okay? I haven't even input like the primary attributes. I just declared them right now. All I've done is declare my primary and secondary attributes, but I haven't done anything with them. I've just got this stuff right now. All right, this is a great place to start off my project and put it up on GitHub. Okay? So you guys should be able to be with me. Anyone not with me at this point?
I still haven't done that. I copied all of it down to that whole thing.
It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult.
It's good that I just put more stuff in there from last time. So
Just use mine, and then you're good.
okay. How do I find them?
Right here, github.com, Georgian College, and this is the link. Yes?
Sorry, I just got an error at the end of my reading. Copy
Right here. I didn't go further. And make sure, when you get errors, my friends, you get errors because, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, you get errors because curly braces are messed up. Right? Remember, you must have an opening and closing curly brace. You make sure that everything has a semicolon. Okay? And again, that's the way you want to do it. All right? So make sure you have what I have right now. This is exactly what your code should look like at this point.
Those are curly braces.
I know. Curly braces. So there's a bit of starting code. It's not a lot, but it'll get us going because we have some variables, and then we can test them. All right, and that's what we're doing with if statements. If statements test a condition to know that they're true or false, or they test a condition, different kinds of conditions, not just necessarily true or false, an equality, but maybe if it's greater than, or less than. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so this is where we go with this. Hopefully you guys are caught up now. Yes?
No, I'm not caught up.
Why not? Yeah?
I'm not caught up. I still have to type down every single little.
You don't need to type. You just need to copy paste.
Right, but there's complications, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do?
Oh, what a nice guy. I have a very nice helper that's helping out.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
In the secondary attributes, I did the addition while.
Yeah, I'm telling you to copy my code,
Oh, okay.
right? All right, so now that we're most of us are here, right, and this is where we should be, let's put this up on Git. Let's create a Git repository locally and put it up on GitHub. You guys know how to do this. So what is my first command? If I open up my terminal, that's my first thing, my first action. But what is my first command to to set up a Git repository locally on my computer? What is my first command? This could be a quiz, right? I'm giving you a quiz right now. Yes.
It's git dot add dot.
Before that, that's the second one. Yes.
You do not need to do this again.
We could, yeah, that is definitely something we could do. We can go actually here, adding to source control, and that is definitely something we can do. And I think that's not a bad idea because why? Why do we want to add it to source control? Because it gives us a couple things that we would not normally have on our own. We could certainly try it on our own, like we certainly can do Git init on our own. That's the first command actually, right? But what this does, add to source control right here, if I go to Git, what it does is it gives me this menu, right, which is basically a dialog box, and I have options. One of them is local only, right? And then when I have local only, if I go here, it creates the gitignore file that I need. If I don't have a gitignore file, I'm going to include files from Visual Studio that are locked. And because they're locked, these files from Visual Studio, I won't be able to do a commit or anything else afterwards. So my gitignore file is super important. Now there's a couple ways to get this. I could do it this way, or if you recall, if I go back to our week 1, I've given you some of those tools as well. So if I go back to week 1, you can see scrolling down that I've got a couple of these, a gitignore file and a git attributes file, that you can certainly copy in to your project. Let's do it this way this week, okay, where I want you to actually copy this in first before we, instead of using this little dialog box to give you options, okay? That's what I'm doing it for. So again, what I want to do is I want to go up here inside of week 1, okay? And I want to download the gitignore file and the git attributes file. Let's do that. So I'm going to kind of click on here. I'm going to click download original file. Notice that there's an underscore, an ugly underscore that I don't want. That will invalidate this file. It has to be just .git attributes, okay, as an example. And it's got to go in the right folder. So I'm going to put it right in the folder that I need it in, the one I just made. So Georgian ICE3, that's where it's going to go, right in here, okay? So right inside the main folder, right? And then click Save. And I'm going to do the same thing for gitignore. So gitignore and git attributes, I'm downloading both of those. It's going to go in the same spot. Make sure, again, you take away the underscore, so it just says .gitignore, and press Save. And when I do that, if I check my operating system files, again, going into the operating system so I can check my in-class exercise, it looks like this, where the gitignore and git attributes file are on the same level as my solution file, my SLN file. They're in the same spot, okay? They're not in here, okay? That's not where they are. They're not in here. They're out here. They're in here. This is the root of your folder, okay? Kind of looks like this with a hidden.vs file. Again, hidden files and folders, if you can't see them, you go to View, and then down here where it says Show, you can show hidden items. If you don't have this already on, you should, because we're developers, we're not regular users. It's okay for us to show these things, okay? For regular users, it might be annoying. They're like, wait, what is that weird ghosted out .vs file? It's a hidden file. All right, so now that we have this, are you with me?
Well,
Why?
I didn't even figure out how to save it. You're moving too fast for me.
All right, so what you do is you go to, again, you go here and you save it.
Yeah, I
You know,
got that, but I don't know where to put it because I can't find those files.
you don't know where you put your ICE3?
No, I didn't save it yet onto the. I don't get where I do that.
Well, where's your operating system? Like wherever you put your files, that's where it goes. Are you good?
I don't have the ICE3 or the .vs anywhere.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So did you make the proper project? Okay. That's awesome. Right? So anyways, if you look here, if I'm inside of my Visual Studio, so that's definitely one way of doing it. If you're weirded out by this, if you're still weirded out by this thing, and you can't figure it out, you can certainly use add to source control this way. If this is like easier for you to do and go local and click create, you can do that. I'm not going to complain. However, there's going to come a time you're going to need to do this without help from Visual Studio, and that's why I'm showing you the way to do it now. Okay, so now one thing you can do to check to see if you have all the files before we start our folder is you can issue on the developer PowerShell, which is, again, you get that from View Terminal. That's how you get it. You can issue a dir command. If you do that, you can see that you should have git attributes and git ignore file in your ICE3 SLN file here. So just issue a dir command. That stands for directory. It's an old DOS command from the Bill Gates days. That's how long it's been around, right? And it'll show you this. Do you see the same things as me?
I have a question that's specific. If I accidentally messed up the first time I got Visual Studio to save a file and I saved it to the wrong folder, is there a way to change that so I don't have to manually do it every time?
Yes, but you're going to have to wait. We'll talk about how. All right, so are you with me now? Come on.
I have to remake it because I didn't name it right. So I have to remake it.
Hurry. Did you type it in already?
I leave it here. And
Damien, did you type it in already? Are you with me?
I'm still, I didn't realize, I'm still trying to type in all the codes.
Okay, I missed it. So I created the program. I didn't have my Word folder, so I had to create it again. I saved it. It's not popping up in the folder like I wrote it.
Go back to your folder over here. So go back. Show me your terminal over here.
Now what do I do?
You? Terminal.
Basic edition,
The path is going to show up right here. This is where you put it.
Thank you.
So for people who can't find their stuff, when you go to the terminal, right, take a look down here. It actually shows you the path to where your stuff is, right here. It says C, users, me, that's me, downloads, Georgian, COMP1115, ICE3. This is where I put it, okay? That's the path. And so this way your path is going to be unique because your name is different than my name, right? And you might be set up differently. You might put it somewhere else other than downloads. That's okay. But that path is the way you find your files, okay? So now that I have this, I've kind of got my files. Are you good?
I'm good now.
Oh my God. All right, you can continue. Now that we have this, we're going to issue the first command, the initial command, which is git init. Let's do this together. I'm going to clear the screen here. Git init. Okay, that's the first command. Let's do it together. Git init. And press enter, right? And then we're going to do git add dot. Git add dot. That's the second command, right? And the third command is a commit. Git commit -m initial commit. Okay, those are the three commands you have to do right away, all right? So in order for me to help you, 1 second, so that some people can see that better, I'm going to bring up Notepad, and in Notepad, I'm going to bring it a little bit bigger so you can see it. So it's git init, in a second, git add dot, git commit -m. This is going to be like your mantra, initial commit. Well, and let's move this forward, make it bigger so you can see it really big, even the people in the back. That's what you need, okay? Those three commands. Yes?
So do we have to add those two files that we downloaded for Blackboard every time?
You should, yes, because those files, the git attribute and the git ignore files, they configure, right, your project folder in the correct way so I can do these three commands afterwards. If you don't, and if you do these commands first, then what's going to happen is adding will add everything, even stuff you don't care about, even stuff you shouldn't even add, right? And so what happens is then, I mean, there's a complicated process where you could remove, but that's crazy. Let's remove everything again. Oh wait, let's just add things back again, right? Yes.
It's not working for me.
is, rename it, and what I recommend you do is delete your Git file. Delete that. Delete, delete it.
He's working like out of the contract.
Delete, right? And then rename that properly to Git external, please, and try again. All right, yes.
Mine says error files, but commit the non-correction files. None to get F1 to one.
Commit the non-matching files because you need to make a quick initial quotations. You see my quotes? Yeah. Yeah. All right, please make sure you have quotes around your commit message, okay? Your commit message needs quotes because it's a string and Windows does not understand spaces, okay? So you need to put quotations around your message. There's two messages you can have. This is review, right? There's initial commit or first commit. Those are very conventional. Some people like to use first commit. Some people like to use initial commit. It's okay, right? Some people also do things like added project files. If it's the first time, you're adding project files for the first time, that's okay. But something that basically says, this is my baseline commit. This is my checkpoint. If you're going to play a video game, this is your first checkpoint, right? This is the place you're going to go back to if you die, right? And that's kind of what Git and GitHub do. It allows us to go back, revert is the proper term, back to the original state of your files, the last checkpoint that you used. So if you fall into lava, you can go back and your code is okay. All right, that's what it is, which is what this is, okay? So that's the first part. So we've done the first part. Now we need some more steering instructions to connect our local repository. Right now we've created a local repository on our machine, but there's no connection to GitHub, okay? Now we need a GitHub repo. So again, going back to GitHub, I'm going to make a brand new repo as we did before. I'm going to click this new button down here or up there. And then here, you might see something that looks like this. So your name and the repository. I'm going to see an organization. Don't worry about that. Right? And then from here, I'm going to type in the repository name. I'm going to make this bigger so you can see it. I use the following repository structure. You don't have to, right? But I do because I have multiple courses. So COMP1115 fall 2025 ICE3. That's what I do, okay? And I'm showing you this again because this way you can identify what you're looking at, okay? And by the way, again, I encode my videos the same way, like I said. COMP1115, F2025, week 3, kind of thing. All right, so that's the thing. Once I've done this, remember, I do not want you to add anything else. Don't make changes here. Don't accept a README file or getting a file. Please do not do that. If you do, you will not be able to push properly to GitHub, okay? And then the next part is I'm going to click, make sure also that your repository is private. That has to be private visibility, okay? And click Create Repository. You're going to get a series of steering instructions, which is what I call them, which is this part right here. All right, this is the steering instructions. Now, there's two ways to do this. You could type them out, okay? Or you could just copy this by clicking the button, all right? So I click the button, I've copied it, and then I'm going to Alt-Tab back to my Visual Studio. You can also click on the icon below. And once I'm here, I'm going to right-click, and that's the way that Visual Studio allows me to paste my commands into my project. So to show you this, again, if I was to right-click here and paste, the remote looks kind of like this. This is what I'm doing, right? So far, these are the commands I've put in. Now, you can type this by yourself, but notice that this is a unique identifier. A URI is what it's called. This unique identifier is for my GitHub repository. This will not be your GitHub repository because your account is not Georgian College. Okay? Your account is not this. This is where you put in your account in there. So your account name, your account. Right? This is where this goes in. With anything in the square brackets, including the square brackets, replaced by your account. Right? And then this may also change over time. This could be whatever the project name is called, the Git repo name. Git repo name. Okay, that's what this is. Okay? So that is how you add a remote. You can do this manually. You can do it just like I did with getting copy-paste, right? But this is a good thing to capture because you're going to see it over and over again. Okay, so capture this. You're going to take a picture of it or whatever you're going to do. That's what you need. git branch minus m, what this tells us is basically we are allocating this whole thing to the main branch. That's the default branch we're going to use, the branch name, main, right? And then push minus u, what we're doing is we're saying that the default place to push is in the main branch across the origin remote. Okay, that's what it works like. So that's why you need these two lines, okay? And this specific thing is done one time. You don't need to do this more than one time. This is the initial stuff. So this is the way you would, so we'll call this initial setup. Okay, this is the initial setup, just so you know. Okay? You don't do these things again. One time, like this. Okay? And by the way, if you ever have a question about what to do, I mean, you could take some direction from GitHub. GitHub tells you some of this stuff right here. It's almost exactly the same. The difference is, instead of git add dot, it adds a README file by default. No, we don't want that. And notice it uses first commit instead of initial commit. Well, we can change that. In fact, you can actually copy this whole thing if you really wanted to, and then paste it. You can do that too. If you forget all the commands, just make a Git repo. You got this, and just change git add readme to git add dot, and you got everything. It's right here. Even if you just go to GitHub and do this, right? So if you forget, GitHub, right, is the way you can remember easily. It's right there. Okay. All right. So now that we've done this, and I'm ready to push, I haven't pressed the last button on my thing. If I'm configured properly, I should be able to do enter, and I'm good. It gives me some good, kind of responses. Unless GitHub complains with a warning or an error, or Git complains, you can assume that it went through. Okay? Let's check that now, and I'm going to go back to GitHub and refresh and see what happens. And if I did everything right, we should see this. Yes?
I'm still having the same issue. I can't seem to fix it.
Okay. So start over, and then what you can do is you can use, kind of these commands, right? You can make a GitHub repository on your own and then do it. But I would, what you can do if you're starting over, if you're still having a problem, is here you could add source control this way, and instead of downloading the Git attributes in GitHub, and if that works well for you, do it that way.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, I wasn't
Yeah.
paying attention for the last minute. We're pushing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so now that we've pushed this, we're back to here, and you can see if I go to my commits, I have one commit, and this is what I do when I mark you guys. So pay attention. I look at these commits, and I go, initial commit. Now, here's a question for you. What if I only have this from you for the entire time? You're in class exercise 3. I only get this. Did I get all your code? Maybe you failed to commit anything else. Maybe you forgot, right? Guys, if you forget to commit and your Git repository looks different than your video, 0. Just letting you know. Your Git repository is the way that I mark you. I have to see your code, okay? Here's something else. I do not want you just to show me your Git repository. People have done this too in their video. They've gone through here and they're like, well, let me show you my stuff, Tom. And they've gone into ICE3 and they've gone into the program and they're like, here, this is my stuff. Insufficient. Okay, I don't want to just see this. I want to see you rummaging around in Visual Studio, making it run, proving to me that we're doing everything. If you're in your mind, if you're like, did I prove it to him? Keep going. All right? Keep talking. All right? And then, at least you've done this. Make sure this runs. Show me that it runs. Actually press the plus, this little run button, the play button, and show me, hey, look, it runs. And then talk about it like that. Because if you don't, I don't know if it runs. Guys, I'm not going to run potentially every single piece of your code, right? I may. If I'm really skeptical about looking at it, if I go like, hey, that looks weird, as an example, I may run it or I may not, right? You need to prove it to me. And also, it's good for you to talk to it because when you talk through your code, you understand it more, all right? So please make sure you do that. All right, so now I think we should be at the point now where you have a repository, right? And where we're ready to continue with what we're doing today, okay? Are you with me? Are you at this point? Good. So we were talking about earlier, I'm just going to zoom in here so you can see it. We're talking about if statements. And let's suppose I got my character name right? And there's a way to test for what the character name is. Let's test this out. Let's see if you entered your name, okay? So how would you do this? Well, you would just simply go down here and you type in if, right? By the way, notice that if I put if, there's a couple of, if you have the same version of Visual Studio as I do, on the left, there's a couple of extra little marks that come up here. Take a look here. If I click on one of these, like this, right, nothing happens. But if I click this one, where it says if statement, take a look here, if statement. If I click this one, and I double click, it actually creates a structure for you just off the top, right? Let me undo that and try that again. So if I go if, and I press, I start typing, right? So I just typing the if statement. You can see here that it pulls up a little menu where Visual Studio is using IntelliSense to try and do code completion. It's actually doing that for you here, right? This is not cheating. This is part of the tool. And then you have this little thing that looks like a box. If you double click here on this box, it gives you a structure right away. So you don't have to remember how to do this properly, okay? However, let's talk about this. So if is true, this is the condition. If is the keyword, and anything that's inside the curly braces is going to execute. That's what's going to run, okay? Question for you. This condition is an expression, right? And it tests if it's true. Is it true? Question for you again. Is it always going to be true? Because I made it true. True is actually a keyword in C#. So is false, right? It's a literal. It's a Boolean literal, which means that true is going to evaluate to true, positive, yes. And because if checks to see if the thing inside of it's in parentheses is true, then this is always going to be true, which means anything that's inside those curly braces is always going to run, okay? So we don't want this. We want to test. Here's the condition we want to test. I want to test if, let's see if you guys can write it, try it out, if my character name is equal to your name, all right? Try that out. How do I type that out? What do you think it is?
Type no website.
If my character name, here's my character name, right, is equal to your name. By the way, there's two equals. There's equal, like this, and there's equal, like this. Okay? Equal is what you want to use. And you can put in something like this, Tom. Okay, in your case, you put in your name. Or any other name you want to test. Okay? So this, okay, is, there's parts to this thing I want to talk about. First, there's if the keyword, and then, right, the condition is what we're testing, which is in the parentheses. Okay, that's where it is. The condition that you're testing is in the parentheses. So let's say a condition to test is in the parentheses. So I'm testing this. Is it true? Is character name equal to Tom? Equal is the relational operator, right? That basically says, the conditional operator that says basically, hey, is Tom and the thing that I'm storing in character name, are they the same? That's what that means. Okay, if it's true, then what do we want to do? We want to do something. Let's output something like this. Console.writeLine, and we're going to say welcome, and I want to be very specific here, Tom.
I can't find it.
I'm not sure what you're not finding, but
I'm trying to find the whole new repository thing on GitHub.
okay. We're going to take a break in 5 minutes, and then you can go from there. Are we good? Are we clear about this? Do you guys get this? So again, this is the test. This tests this condition, the condition in the parentheses. If the test passes, so if indeed character name is equal to Tom, if that's true, then the stuff inside the curly braces executes. We say this statement executes or runs. Okay, that's the way we talk about it, right? This executes. And we can say that. We can say, let's put some more stuff. If the test passes, then the statements, we'll put statements, because it could be more than one statement, statements in the curly braces execute. Okay? I'll put this in like this so you can see you're going to use this like this, right? If the test passes, then the statements or statement in the curly braces execute or executes. Okay? It's very simple. It's either a pass-fail condition. Either I pass the test and it's true, or I fail the test and it's false. Yes?
What's the reasoning for not having a semicolon after 12?
There?
Yeah.
This is not a complete statement. The complete statement goes from here to here. That's the complete thing, right? And I don't need a semicolon there. I don't need that, okay? But I want you to consider that this is a special construct where this is a test. This is actually not going to do anything unless it passes. So this is kind of like I'm kind of wrapping the statements I want to test inside of this if statement. Yes?
That might be a silly question. What's the difference between writing one equal sign as opposed to writing two equal signs?
One equal sign is assignment. I'm assigning Tom to character name. Two equal signs is comparison. I'm comparing Tom to what's inside of character name. That's what the equal operator does, right? So there's different operators we're going to use. Equal. Now, people make mistakes. Here's something that you can do. What if I did something like this, right? Well, it's going to give me a bit of an error, right? If I hover over, it's going to say character name may be null here. And also it says cannot implicitly convert string to bool. Okay, can't do that as string, because that's what I'm doing here. I'm converting it to bool. Unnecessary assignment of a value. It tells you all these things, but the reality is you can't do this. This is no good. Not here inside the if statement. Okay, you can't do that. So it's going to complain. Now, there are some languages, however, this will not complain. Good example of that is JavaScript. JavaScript will allow this. Because JavaScript is going to say something like, oh, you're assigning something? Oh, that's true.
I already forgot how to do the get and how to get add commit push stuff. Either that or it's not letting me.
Here's your statements, right, that you need to do. These are the things you need to do. Take a look at it online. So I want to fix this. I want to fix this. Again, you're going to go to GitHub, right? You're going to go to GitHub. Let's do that together for people who are stuck. And then what you can do is in GitHub, right, there's two parts. You can go new, or you can do this plus sign up here on the top, right? So you can do new. If you click new, you'll make a new repository. If you click the plus sign, you can also make a new repository. That's how you make a new one. All right, back to this. So now that we've got this and we've tested it, let's run this thing and see if it works. Okay, so let's press play. Can someone help him out, please? If I press play and I put Tom in now,
I don't want this to.
it's going to say, welcome, Tom. My test passed, and it executed those commands, right? But there's another option. Here's another possibility. If I put in something else, like Bob. Bob doesn't do anything. Bob doesn't say, hello, Tom, because the test failed. And so it skipped that stuff. So here's another learning. If the test passes, it executes this command, right? If the test fails, however, we can say, however, if the test fails, then the compiler, just a second, the compiler skips everything in the curly braces.
I can't type anything.
Does that make sense? And I'm just going to help this gentleman, and I'll be right back.
Can we have break?
In 5 minutes.
Okay, I said, okay, every time I type in it,
Take a breath. Go to terminal. Right? Then you can type stuff in. Right? Here, you know, you can type stuff in here. You make your repository online.
yes,
Good.
right, except it won't let me.
Okay, we're gonna come back. I'm gonna come back. Let's, guys. I have to help a couple people out. So let's take a 5-minute break, right, or 10-minute break. People can get some coffee and wake up a little bit. Some people came in late, right, and stuff like that as well. And then I will try and fix the people that need help, and then from there we'll continue. Okay, so 10-minute break. We'll come back. Let's make it 13 minutes. So right now at 9, and then we'll continue. Okay.